guys, I'm Chris from True Fun Entertainment, and if this is the first time you're watching my videos, I am currently porting Mortal Kombat to the ATARI Jaguar. So on my channel, I post video updates about once a month as to my progress in building this port. So today I want to talk about the additions to the game that have been made since the last video, kind of show off where we're currently at. Then I'm going to do a dive into how I'm building my sprite sheets and kind of a breakthrough I had that's creating these sprite sheets a lot easier. So we're going to take a look at that. And then I want to talk about something that a lot of you have asked in the comments, and that's how will it control and will it have Pro Controller support? So we're going to get into that as well. But before we get started, I do want to thank my Patreon supporters. You guys have been awesome. I post updates 2 or 3 times a week, and it's been awesome kind of bouncing ideas off you guys and getting the positive encouragement as well. So thank you guys. And for my patrons at the True Tester level, stay tuned to the end of this video. I have an update that will be some pretty cool news for you guys. So up next, I wanted to take a look at the game and the updates that have been made since the last video. And it was basically building out more and more of the attacks. And specifically, I wanted to get into the kind of more of the signature moves of Mortal Kombat. And I went back and watched a video. It's an interview with Ed Boon. It's an IGN video. They interview Ed Boon, and they are talking about the original Mortal Kombat in development. And they asked him, at what point did they know they had something special that was different from any other game that had ever been done? And Ed Boon explained it was really the uppercut that once they had built the uppercut with the dramatic uppercut animation, the blood flying, the screen shaking, the guy flying way up into the air and then falling down, they knew that was something that had never been seen before. So for me, in recreating that, it was very important to break all those components down and recreate them best I could for the ATARI Jaguar. Okay, so I've got the game up here, and I'm going to select my fighters. Let's do Sonya and Kano.
Kano, Sonya.
Again, still don't have any of the fonts loaded in. Been focusing on the combat, but we'll get there. Okay, so as I was saying, we have last time we talked about the basic attack. So I've got a low punch, high punch, low kick, high kick. Then I can block, and I can duck and block. Okay, and now I have the ability to jump. I can jump and punch, jump and kick. I can sweep, and I can uppercut. So let's bring Sonya over, and let's show an actual uppercut. So we can see there's the screen shake, the blood's flying. Pretty cool stuff. And then I can go to sweep. I can jump and punch. Jump and kick. Oops, that was a punch. Let's do a kick. There we go. And then the blocking works now as well. So if I have Kano block, I can then have Sonya. Right? And she can uppercut him back. So we're actually getting into real fighting mechanics now. And the fighters can no longer walk through each other. We actually have collision detection. Okay, and here's a little side-by-side comparison. We've got the arcade on the left and the Jaguar version on the right. And we can see the timing of the animation, the blood flying, the screen shaking, all of those components put together, and we get a pretty close replica of that arcade experience. Okay, so the next thing I wanted to do is take a look at how sprite sheets are built and kind of an optimization that I found that really helps build out the sprite sheets, like I said, in an optimized manner such that the pixels aren't wasted, that I'm maximizing the space on that image. Because at first I was just copying the sprites one-to-one from the arcade over into the sprite sheet. But as I got to where I was cutting out the frames of animation, using that texture atlas that we talked about in a previous video, I would cut out the frames of animation and things wouldn't quite line up correctly. It would have pixels missing or extra pixels. So ultimately what I found is the Raptor engine wants the sprites to be multiples of 16. So what I came up with, at first I was just kind of eyeballing it, and I would trim down the sprites of animation so that they were in multiples of 16, and then I would drop them onto the sprite sheet to have, you know, all of the frames of animation in that one image. But what I found was I was wasting space. And it was really tough to, once I was building out the animations in the code, you have to specify what the X and Y coordinates are and then the height and width of each frame. And that got to be a really tedious process. So I got to thinking of what would be kind of the ideal tool to build these out. But I found that really all I needed was a grid system. So here in Paint.net, I added this layer to the sprite sheet. So this grid layer just overlays that sprite sheet, and these are it's a 16 by 16 overlay, and you can see it's showing me what space is available for the sprite sheet to grow. And by following this grid, I can then easily go carve out exactly what frame I need. And then I can draw the square for this given sprite and know that it's 96 by 80 for that frame. And I know that it will be compatible with the 16 by 16 format that the Raptor engine is expecting. So the next part of this is taking the frames of animation from the arcade sprite sheet and moving them onto my sprite sheet. So to do that, I have to make sure that they fall into that grid system that we came up with here. So for this next frame, I'm going to put it here in this available spot. I'm going to look at this, and I can see this image is, so this is 97 by 81. Ideally, we want it to fit into 80 by 96. So we're 1 pixel too wide and 1 pixel too tall. Now, I can get this pixel perfect onto the sprite sheet, but since it has to be 16 by 16, we would waste 15 pixels of width and 15 pixels in the height if we were to put it in the sprite sheet as it is right now. What I can do instead is I can shave off 1 pixel of width and 1 pixel of height, and that gets it to fit onto my sprite sheet, and visually the player would never notice the difference of 1 pixel missing. So basically I need to trim out 1 pixel out of the height and 1 pixel out of the width. And to do that, I find a place in the sprite where there's not too much going on. So right here in the waist, I can see there's nothing too significant that changes. So I'm going to grab right here. I'm going to do a copy paste and then move it 1 pixel down. So now if you measure this out, I've got 96 in the height, but now I need to do 80 in the width. So again, I can look through, and it looks like right here there's a lot of extra pixels and nothing really significant, like his face or his arms. Nothing significant is going on right here. So I'm going to grab this, copy, paste, and bump it in 1 pixel. And again, the player will never notice this, but what we've done is we've shaved the sprite down enough that it will fit onto the sprite sheet, and we're efficiently using that space. So I'm going to copy this, and then I can paste it onto my sprite sheet. And then line it up pixel perfect, and it falls in right there. Now, if we had not shaved off that extra pixel in the height and the width, this sprite would have taken up this whole area. So you can see we just saved an entire row and entire column in our sprite sheet. And that's what goes into building out these sprite sheets. It really is a tedious process of getting all of the sprites optimized and compressed so that they'll all fit, but then also doing my best to replicate that arcade look and feel. So this is fun for me. A fun part of game development that I enjoy is all of the different hats that I get to put on. So, by day I'm a software engineer, so of course I love the programming, but it's also fun to work on graphics and work on sound, work on the controls and the gameplay. All right, and up next, I want to talk about, a lot of you guys have asked about how this will control and will there be Pro Controller support. So, yes, there will be Pro Controller support. And in fact, I have my Pro Controller here to show you guys how the buttons will be laid out. There are plenty of buttons on the Pro Controller, so essentially it's going to be laid out like the arcade, where Z and C will be our punch buttons. So we got high punch, low punch. In the middle, the arcade, there's only one block button, but for this we're going to have both middle buttons will be block, and then that's X and A will be high kick and low kick. Okay, and then there are the shoulder buttons as well, which will be block for those of you that are used to like a Super Nintendo layout to do blocks. The keypads, I don't know yet. I've thought about maybe making these to where you can do like a easy fatality, to where you can program it to say if I press 1, then that automatically does the fatality. Something like that would probably be how I'd use the buttons down here. So the real question is, how do I get the 5 buttons of the arcade to work with the 3 buttons of the Jaguar? And what I've come up with is pretty close to how Mortal Kombat worked for the Sega Genesis. But the Sega Genesis, it did have A, B, and C buttons, but they also had the pause button, which was right here above the B button. On the Jaguar, we don't have that. Pause is all the way over here, and that wouldn't be ideal to have to press in the middle of a fight. So what I've come up with is C will be punch, okay? And there's one punch button. By default, this will be a low punch, okay? Then there's the middle button that'll be block, and then A will be kick. And like the punch button, this will be a low kick and low punch. To do a high punch, you'll have to hold forward. So as you're fighting, if you hold forward and hit punch, it'll perform a high punch. And similar with kick, forward and kick would be a high kick. Now, all the special moves that require either a high punch or a low punch will both just use punch. So Scorpion Spear, back, I think it's back, low punch in the arcade. So back, high punch or low punch will work, and that means that you can just hit the punch button and get the combination to work. And this will go for all the special moves and fatalities. So my goal is to make the standard controller a simple, intuitive, and preferred way to play Mortal Kombat on the Jaguar. This is my goal, to make this feel right. Of course, with the Pro Controller, it's going to have all the buttons, and you'll have an easy time playing the game. But my goal is really to make this feel right, and that you won't feel that you're at a disadvantage if you have to, if you're player 2 and you have to be on the original standard controller. But there is a challenge, and I'm going to put a poll out to my Patreon supporters and kind of get your thoughts as well. So, or you guys can let me know in the comments. But, so as I said, forward and kick will perform a high kick. Just pressing the button will do a low kick. Hold back and hit low kick and you do a sweep. But back and high kick does a roundhouse. But with the standard controller, we only have one kick. So back and kick will obviously have to be the sweep, because that's the most used. Between using a roundhouse and a sweep in Mortal Kombat, the sweep is way more common. So the challenge is, how do we do the roundhouse? I've got a few thoughts. Maybe if you hold block and kick and hold back, and then you hit both, maybe perform a roundhouse, or maybe up and back and kick is a roundhouse. So let me know your thoughts. What do you think would be the best way to handle this? And then for my true testers, we will put this in the pre-alpha so that when you guys are playing it, you can kind of see what you guys think, how things feel. I'm not quite sure how I'm going to do it yet in the pre-alpha, but based on your feedback, I'll code it one way. We can see how it feels and go from there. And then finally, here's a look at those mappings we just talked about. The Pro Controller, we can see we've got plenty of buttons to go where we get all of the individual buttons laid out. And then on the standard controller, we have our punch, block, and kick. And then holding that forward and then hitting punch would do the high punch, forward and kick does the high kick. And then finally, I want to show off a little Christmas present that I got from my wife. And if you are at the true tester level on Patreon, you will be happy to see I now have a GameDrive for the ATARI Jaguar. And with this, I can copy my ROM file. So when I build the game on my PC, I can copy that ROM to a SD card, put it in this, and then play it on real hardware. So it's running the game on the ATARI Jaguar. I haven't done it yet. That's what I'm going to do after this video is done. Can't wait to hop in and see how it's running. But for true testers, this is the next step in getting the game ready for that pre-alpha release. I do need to finish out more of the fighting moves. Like I said, we need to tackle that roundhouse kick versus the sweep. I want to get... the jumping is in the game that you can jump up, but you can't jump at an angle yet. So I need to do that to where you can actually jump over the other fighter. And I need the camera working. So right now, if you scroll to the left or the right, you're still dragging that other player, where there's not truly a stage camera that controls as the fighters are moving back and forth. So I want to get some more fighting moves in there. I want to get the camera system. I want to make sure it's working on the actual Jaguar hardware. Once I've got all that going, I will be sending out that pre-alpha to start getting feedback. So you guys can actually get your hands on it, let me know what you think, and we'll go from there. So again, thank you guys so much. I appreciate the comments. I appreciate you guys subscribing to the channel. And of course, I appreciate my Patreon supporters that are encouraging me and keeping me motivated on this project. It's a lot of fun. I'm having a blast. And we'll see you next time. Take care.